Hey guys, today we're going to talk about all the standalones that I want to read in 2023. Similarly to my series that I want to read in 2023, these are all books that I currently own because I want to make a dent in my TBR. I'm not promising to quit buying books altogether, but I really want to prioritize these books in 2023. And I do tend to read a lot of fantasy, which leans into being like full-blown series a lot, but I did manage to find a few standalones to talk about today. Some of these have been on my TBR for a while, some of them are more recent additions, but these are all books that I'm really excited to get to and I really want to prioritize this year. I'm going to start off with the biggest one probably on this list, and that is Babel by R.F. Kuang. This was on my anticipated reads, or releases rather, of 2022, and I definitely thought I was going to get to it right away, and like there was so much hype around this book when it came out. I did get a couple special editions. This one's the Waterstones, and I also got the Fairy Loot edition, so I feel like maybe part of it was that I wasn't able to pick it up like on release day and jump right in. I got them a little bit later. But I don't know. I think another part of it is that I'm just intimidated because like, what if I don't like it? What if it's like a denser read than I'm prepared for? What if it doesn't live up to the Poppy War? I don't know. I want to love this book, so it's just a lot of pressure, but I do intend to get to it this year. In case you've been living under a rock or just haven't heard the premise of this book, we follow a young man named Robin who is initially from China, but is brought over as an orphan to England and ends up attending Oxford University and being part of this prestigious program called Babel, which focuses on language. I believe silver is also used as sort of a magical instrument of some sort, and it's all about colonialism and the power of language. I've heard excellent things. This is on a lot of people's like top books of 2022 lists, so again, it's a lot of pressure, but I'm sure I'll like it. I do like R.F. Kuang's writing. It's just a little intimidating, but I'm eager to get to it. I'm just a little scared. This next book is also kind of intimidating, but I thought the same thing about the last book that I read from this author, and I ended up having a really fun, delightful time, so I'm going to try to read Emma by Jane Austen this year. I read Pride and Prejudice last year and absolutely loved it. It's a story that I've known for a really long time due to like the movie and miniseries adaptation, but I've actually never seen an adaptation of Emma, including Clueless. So I do actually want to do that at some point this year as well, but I want to try reading the book first. All I know is that this book follows a young woman named Emma who likes to play matchmaker in her community, and this can sometimes lead to disastrous results. But I've heard this is a lot of people's like actual favorite Jane Austen book. Like it's the dark horse behind Pride and Prejudice, so I'm really eager to see what this is about, if I like it as much as I like Pride and Prejudice. It's a bit of a chonker. I don't know how much of this is like notes or what, but it's definitely thicker than Pride and Prejudice is. This is 450-ish pages almost, so yeah, it's a little bit more of an investment, but I really do love Jane Austen's writing, and maybe I can find like a nice audiobook to go along with this, because that really helped me with Pride and Prejudice as well. I'm very excited, if not a little intimidated, to get into this one. I've really gotten into Neil Gaiman recently, so I've been picking up a lot of his little, like, kind of tinier standalones, so I really want to try to get to the Graveyard book this year. This is another one I've heard excellent things about. It follows a young boy named Nobody, or Bod, who grows up in a sprawling graveyard under the watchful eye of benevolent spirits and a solitary guardian who belongs to neither the world of the living or the dead. It sounds very, like, whimsical in that, like, almost morbid way that Neil Gaiman likes to play with, so I'm really interested to see what this is about. I've never read this. There's not an adaptation, so this is kind of new territory, I think, for me with Neil Gaiman. Actually, no, I guess I read The Ocean at the End of the Lane last year, and I went in sort of similarly blind, but I have heard people say really good things about this. It's a little bit longer than some of the books I read by him last year, but that's fine. It's still only 270 pages, so that's pretty short. Also looks like it has illustrations, which is always fun. I'm excited to continue my Neil Gaiman journey, and I want to see, like, I feel like the premise of this one really calls out to me, and I have a feeling that this might be a new favorite of mine by him, but we will see. This next book, I am straight up embarrassed that I haven't gotten to yet, because it's a romance, which are usually really fast reads for me, and I know this one has a little bit more of, like, emotional weight behind it, kind of similar to, like, Emily Henry, but the title of this book really lends itself to, like, reading in a certain month, and I keep telling myself I'm gonna read it in that certain month, because it'd be fun, and I somehow keep skipping it that month, because it tends to be a busy month for me. And I just said month like 50 times in the last 20 seconds, but that is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is actually an art copy that I found in the 50-cent bin of my local bookstore, but yeah, so this came out in 2021. I meant to read it last year in June, because of the name, 7 Days in June, and I just didn't, and again, I'm embarrassed, so I've heard this is excellent. I've heard it's emotional. We follow 2 writers who, I believe every June, they spend a week together. They write about each other and dedicate books to one another, but they've never had like a very consistent relationship beyond this week in June every year. So I'm curious to see like what keeps them from fully like committing to one another, and I'm curious because I've heard really good things. I'm not gonna wait until June to read this because I just need to read it already. The mood reader in me is crying a little bit, but I'm just scared that if I like narrow it down to just a few weeks in the year, I'm gonna miss it again, and that's an injustice to this book, I think. So really excited to get to this one, and I think I'll be able to get through it pretty quickly. Another book I tell myself I'm going to read at a very specific time of year and always end up failing to do so is Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. This is like a story within a story, and I love the premise of that. And I keep telling myself in October, like, I need to read this during spooky season. This is the perfect book. And then I think I just get put off by like how thick it is. It's hard sometimes when, especially when you're like a booktuber or you review books, you're kind of going for quantity rather than like quality or books that you're actually really excited to read. So I think this has ended up getting pushed back a couple of times because it's over 600 pages. It's a little intimidating, but it sounds so interesting. I believe this is like a dual timeline. In 1902, there's this school called Brookhampton School for Girls, and these 2 girls become obsessed with each other. They bond over a writer that they both really like, but then one day they're like meeting in secret in an apple orchard and they get attacked by, I believe, hornets. And it's like super macabre, and the school ends up, I think, getting shut down. 3 more people die beforehand, and then over a century later, there's like a movie about it being made, and I think they go to that school. So it's kind of like a haunted school sort of situation, I think. I don't know. It just sounds so interesting. I like books about movies and movie production, so I think that storyline is also going to be really interesting to me. There's also really cool illustrations throughout, and there's also footnotes and stuff. I remember I tried starting this on audiobook, I think, and it wasn't working for me because it's kind of got like a multimedia thing happening, but I do think I'm really gonna enjoy this. I just haven't had the nerve to actually pick it up, which is a shame. So very eager to get to this. Hopefully, finally this year. It's a priority for sure. Then we have, I think, the only currently published book by Sylvia Moreno Garcia that I have not read, and that is Certain Dark Things, which is like vampires in Mexico City. And that's all I need to know. That's an excellent premise. I think that sounds so cool. I absolutely love the cover on this. Like, the jackal is just stunning. It's got kind of like a, not like cyberpunk, but like, it's got like these neon symbols, and I don't know, it just looks so cool. So this follows a character who is a descendant of Aztec blood drinkers and a garbage collecting street kid in their sort of unlikely friendship and partnership. I don't know. Again, this sounds incredible. Sylvia Moreno Garcia is one of my favorite authors. I can't believe I haven't gotten to this, but I think it's also fallen victim to the I'm going to read it in October and then having way too many books that I want to read in October sort of scenario I've had with plain Bad Heroines as well. So I'm not going to wait for October. I'm just going to pick this up at some point this year because it sounds incredible and it's a crime that I have not read all of her books yet. I'm close. I think this is the last one before I'm fully caught up, before her, I think, Silver Nitrate comes out this year. But yeah, this sounds incredible. I think this next book is the most recent addition I've had to this list, and that's because it was kind of making the rounds on TikTok last year, and it's like making people's favorite book of the year lists and stuff, and it sounds so interesting and unique. And I'm just so curious. So that is The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. I think it was Zoran and Jason from Easy Cat that were really recommending this book. And it sounds so cool. So in this book, we have two warriors that shepherd an ancient god across a broken land to end the tyrannical reign of a royal family. And like, oh my god, the end papers? I don't think I've seen that before. Stunning. I've heard it's intricate. I've heard it's a little confusing, maybe at first, kind of slow, but I'm okay with that. I never understood the people that like use the word like slow or slow burn as a negative thing about a book, because like I really relish those details and like I like it when an author takes their time to like build up a story. As long as the writing's good, I'm totally fine with that, and from what I've heard, the writing is excellent, and yeah, I'm curious to see what the hype is about. Something about this just speaks to me. I have a really good feeling about this book. Another one that really blew up the last few years is S.T. Gibson's A Dowry of Blood. This is the Fairy Loot edition. I believe it was October's adult pick. 1, stunning. 2, also a little shorty, so same thing as certain dark things in Plain Bad Heroines. I was like, I'm gonna read this during spooky season, and then I didn't, and that's a shame, because I've heard this is really cool. This is a Sapphic Dracula's Bride retelling, and I believe it's epistolary, like she's writing to Dracula, I think, throughout this, kind of recalling her experience and her loneliness in this relationship, and the bond she ends up forming, I believe, with another one of his brides. It just sounds so decadent and gothic and delicious, and I cannot wait to read it. I don't know why it's just been hanging out on my shelf. This edition is also stunning. Oh, it's a printed hardback. That's cool. And yeah, so this one is, I think, the only one on this list that is a little bit of a cheat, because technically it is a standalone. But S.T. Gibson did just announce another book that's like in this universe that's coming out. I don't think it's a direct sequel or prequel or anything. It just takes place in the same universe. So I'm still treating this as a standalone. It can definitely be read as a standalone, but yeah. So don't correct me in the comments. I'm right. And I will not hear anything else about it. Next up, we have Cersei by Madeline Miller. This is another one that's just like, it's been on my TBR forever. It's been on my radar forever. I bought this edition right after I finished Song of Achilles, which I really enjoyed. I just favor the UK edition of this one. It's so pretty. But yeah, I intended to read it almost immediately after I picked it up, and I just never got around to it. I don't know. Greek mythology retellings are really like summary reads for me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like the Mediterranean thing or what. I believe Cersei lives like isolated on an island, so that maybe is where my brain is at with that. But I just missed the window of time where my brain was like in the mood for it, and not this year. I think she has a Persephone book coming out, not this year, but like that's her next book whenever it comes out. So I want to read Cersei first. I do really enjoy her prose. It's very quotable. At least Song of Achilles was. So I'm curious to see if I like Cersei just as much. This book took, I feel like, the world by storm last year, and it won like a bunch of prizes on Goodreads and with Barnes & Noble and stuff like that. And that is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I picked this up like very shortly after it came out. I'm actually pretty sure this is a first printing. Let me double check. It is a first printing. Haha. Anyways, This book follows a chemist who deals with a lot of misogyny and bullshit, and she ends up like making a cooking show on TV. I don't remember why, but she's also a single mom, and yeah, she's the reluctant star of America's most beloved cooking show, Supper at 6. She has an unusual approach to cooking because she's a scientist, and it proves revolutionary. She's not just teaching women how to cook, she's daring them to change the status quo. So this sounds like a really interesting, very feminist story, historical fiction, and I'm really excited to get into it and see what all the hype is about. So hoping I love it. If you've been watching for any length of time, you might know that I have sort of a casual project where I'm trying to read the books that have been on my Goodreads want to read list the longest. And for a while there, I was doing one every month. So something that was on page 1 of my want to read list on Goodreads. And this one has been in the number 1 spot on this list, meaning that it has been on my want to read list more than anything else that is currently on it the longest. I'm a little bit embarrassed about it. I have read this author's other book that is very popular and enjoyed it, and I feel like I'm gonna enjoy it. I know this book is kind of like you love it or you hate it, but from what I know about it, I feel like I'm gonna love it. I'm just intimidated by it, because what if I don't love it? And that is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I bought this book in paperback when it came out, and I decided I hated the paperback, so I even went and found the hardcover, used at least, it was only $11, so that's not too bad, and replaced it, and I still haven't freaking read this book yet. I'm embarrassed. And I think part of it is, like, I know this book is going to be slow, because at least that's, like, how The Night Circus was, and I literally just said that's not a bad thing, and I don't mind that, but, like, I have to be in the right mood for that. I think that's been my problem with The Starless Seas. I just haven't quite been there yet with this one. We follow a character, I think his name is Zachary, which is my boyfriend's name. So yeah, so Zachary ends up finding a book that brings him to a story from his own childhood, and possibly written in a book that is older than he is, and it just sort of opens up this new world for him, and it's a little vague. It sounds like very, like, I don't even want to say magical realism, but not like full-fledged fantasy either. I don't know. I've heard excellent things about this from the people that do really love it, and knowing my reading taste and knowing their reading taste, I'm pretty sure I'm also going to enjoy it. It does feel like that kind of book that's going to be all-consuming, though, so I just have to be in the right headspace for that, I think. So yeah, those are the standalones I'm really trying to prioritize in 2023. Obviously, I'm going to pick up some other ones, but I'm going to be keeping a checklist of these books to like make sure I'm actually crossing them off throughout the year. This does feel like a really big stack of books, but I still have almost an entire year to read them, so it feels doable, a little more doable even than the series that I want to start this year video that I just did, but we shall see. Please let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these. Which ones should I start with? Which ones did you read and really love? I would love to hear your opinions and your thoughts. And what are some standalones that you are planning to read this year? What are your goals? I'd love to hear them. So thank you again for watching today's video. Please feel free to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, have a lovely day.